Hello and welcome to Norwood News. Today is Friday, June 22nd, and I'm your host, Krista McDonald. On Monday night, the Planning Board met at the Police and Fire Community Room to discuss two main topics: the new Light Department building on Access Road and the proposed parking lot on Moore Street. The new Light Department building was the first public hearing of the night. There were many questions about the current and proposed parking situation. Members of the Planning Board and residents expressed their concern about the proposed parking lot plans. After an hour-long discussion, the Planning Board felt there were still unanswered questions.
I would make a motion. I don't think we're ready to close the public hearing. I'm not. I think we have a couple of issues outstanding on some parking, we have a question. I think the crosswalk is more of a town issue than a light department issue. You know, I don't think that's part of this project, is where a crosswalk. I think that's more of a public safety kind of thing, not really a light department thing.
So you would want to continue this till the 9th, July 9th?
The second public hearing of the night was the proposed plans for open lot storage of over 800 vehicles on Moore Street. The purpose of the meeting was to accept comments from the public on this topic. The hearing began with a presentation from a representative of the applicant describing what the proposed plan is.
This is the existing conditions plan, which shows the site that is easterly of the Neponset River, and is bounded by the railroad tracks and by Moore Street. There is a warehouse on this property. There's some paved area in the back. There are some trucks out there. And then on the westerly side of the Neponset River, running to the point, a line running along near the end of the St. Streets, is a piece of land that we understand was formerly used as a parking lot for Bird and Son. There is a separate section that is south of Hawes Brook that is presently used for school bus parking. All of this and an area that runs down beyond the first area I mentioned, along the railroad tracks, essentially, is the subject of a purchase and sale agreement between DCD Realty and Round Path LLC. Now, my clients propose to purchase this property and to use the property by and large for open lot storage. The area here running northerly to sort of almost a point following the line of the river, they propose to leave essentially untouched. This area, the warehouse will remain. That's used for storage. They want to do outside open lot storage of vehicles, also provide employee parking in conformance with the zoning bylaw in this area here in back of the warehouse. Across the river, they want to have open lot storage in the area occupied presently by school buses and in the undeveloped area.
Over 50 members of the public showed up to the meeting to express their disinterest with the project. Planning Board member Ernie Pachakowski also voiced his concern about particular parts of the proposed plans.
On this particular, I'm going to call it the big lot there, the one that butts up against the St. Streets. Well, you know, clear cutting 3 acres of land there. You're leaving it, well, clear cutting basically 3 acres of land at least. I think it's probably more than that we're going to clear cut, but I'll give you 3 acres. And we're reducing, you know, the buffer requirement is 50 feet. And you're asking to park a couple of hundred, probably 400 cars in that lot, and you're asking to reduce the buffer down to 25 feet. Now, in all fairness to the neighbors, you know, you were at with the public hearings on the rezoning, and you understood that you could have read the tea leaves. To ask for 400 parking spaces in that lot, or whatever the number is in that lot, and clear cut that land, and then have the nerve to say, we're not gonna go by the bylaw and give you 50 feet of buffer. We're gonna cut it down. We're asking for 25. That's big cojones. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, the least you could do is just, no. Listen, it's my opinion. Please don't applaud, and they have a right to don't. It's just my opinion. I mean, cut the number of spots down in that lot and give the people the 50 feet of buffer that's required. I mean, to me, that would be the least thing you could do to help these people. You've been to these meetings, you know the touchiness of this thing.
After the 2-hour discussion on the Moore Street parking lot, the board voted to continue the hearing until their next meeting on July 9th. Stay tuned after this break for an update from the Recreation Superintendent Travis Farley, and later in the show we will learn all about the traffic islands from Town Engineer Mark Ryan.
The Willett Early Childhood Center proudly presents their kindergarten celebrations, starring the kindergarten class of 2018. For those of you keeping score at home, this is the high school class of 2030. Tune in all summer long for the Willett Kindergarten celebrations right here on Norwood Community Media.
We make new friends and learn to play with different people every day.
Welcome back to Norwood News. The Bond Street Tot Lot Playground is one of the more popular parks in the community, and last week some exciting new additions were made. Thanks to the DPW and Recreation Department, kids can now enjoy an extra 10 feet of play space and 3 new interactive elements: a roundabout spin table, a 4-person seesaw, and a climbable dome. All were installed last week and have already seen some love from kids around town. I know what I'm doing this weekend. Rec Department Superintendent Travis Farley tells us how the children and their families have been enjoying the park.
They're still fresh, still new, but a lot of the parents, I've come down, I've seen the kids on the roundabout, I've seen kids playing on the underneath. The seesaw is a huge hit. They're definitely your staples of playgrounds, and we're happy to install it. If you want to come down and check it out, it's right on Bond Street, so it's a lot of fun. We've got a main element here, we've got some wooden elements, we have a couple of swings in the back and a sandbox, a balance beam, so it's a lot of fun. It's definitely more geared towards tots, those 2 to 5 year olds that are looking for something to do. If you're here during the day and you want to check it out, we would definitely encourage it.
Thanks, Travis. Those additions are here just in time for summer vacation. And the Rec Department would like to remind everyone that all of the parks in town are open from dawn till dusk, even in the summertime. Last weekend, Norwood resident Noah Kearns organized the first ever Eagle Scout run through the cross-country course at the Coakley Middle School. This was part of Noah's Eagle Scout project to raise money to put permanent mile markers and a course map at the Coakley. The weather was perfect for the race, and over 40 runners showed up to support a great cause. At the end, medals were handed out to the runners who won their age categories. Congrats, Noah, for putting on such a great event. Stay tuned after this break to find out what is happening in your local government. Welcome back to Norwood News. Monday morning, the Board of Health met for the last time before adjourning for the summer. The board began by welcoming the newest part of the Impact Norwood team, Darryl Sweeper. Darryl comes from the DFC, Drug-Free Communities, grant-based program and is excited to help make improvements in Norwood. Next, the board voted to increase household hazardous waste fees for those who participate at Hazardous Waste Day this fall. The board voted in favor of the raised fees because collection fees are also going up. Later, Health Director Sigal Reese fills us in on a new mental health grant-based program that the board is implementing this fall.
So the main purpose of this grant is to provide a mental health outpatient referral system and work in a media campaign to promote it throughout the community, because anybody can call of any age for anybody.
The Mental Health Referral Grant is a 2-year program that begins November 1st. Anyone can call for a neighbor, friend, family member, the list goes on. If you have any questions about the program, the Board of Health is ready to help. The Zoning Board of Appeals held their meeting on June 19th in Community Room of the Norwood Police Station. First on the agenda was Middlesex Integrative Medicine. MIM was applying for a special permit to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at 76 Astor Avenue. Several Norwood officials were in attendance, including Assistant Town Engineer Andrew Murphy, Health Superintendent Sigal Reese, and Finance Commissioner David Hajar. Hajar, along with several other Norwood residents, sent in letters to the Board of Appeals in opposition of the applicant. The hearing continued on for about 2 hours. Several officials and members of the public gave their input on the matter. Ultimately, the board voted to continue the hearing to their next meeting on July 17th at 7:45 p.m. Wednesday night, the school committee met at the Savage Center. The meeting began with 3 re-elections within the committee for chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. Morris Smith nominated Maya Bodenhofer to continue as chair, and the motion was seconded by David Catania. After the vote, incumbent chair Bodenhofer took the floor and nominated Michelle E.C. Mullen as the vice chair. That motion was seconded by David Catania and carried successfully. The committee wrapped up the re-elections by reinstating Superintendent Thompson to remain as the board's secretary. Then the board continued into the public forum, where one family presented an elementary school redistricting issue to the committee. Next, the board interviewed 4 law firms to handle the school department, and a decision is expected to be made by the end of the summer. Later, town manager Tony Mizuko appeared with high school civics teacher Molly Uppenkamp to request approval of an overnight trip to Washington, D.C. this coming fall for the civics class. Through Tony Mizuko, the Metro Southwest Employment Training Administration agreed to fund the trip entirely as a grant. The committee unanimously voted to approve the trip, and Molly Uppenkamp fills us in on one of the notable highlights of the trip.
We're on the schedule to get a personal tour of the Supreme Court on October 5th. General Linsky has just a good friend who is the educational coordinator for the Supreme Court. So we have an in there. So we've got kind of a few exciting things in the works.
Next, the committee reviewed the superintendent's agenda and old business. Since the committee will not meet as a group in July, David Catania was voted representative to sign any documents on behalf of the committee. The full group will meet again in August to prepare for the school year. The Conservation Commission met in the Town Hall Wednesday afternoon to discuss several projects that are either ongoing or in the planning stages. The first appointment brought in Matt Smith, a town engineer representing a real estate developer, David Spiegel. Spiegel intends to build a parking lot and a vacant lot by the Launch Trampoline Park on Providence Highway. The commission deferred this project to the planning board as a special permit is needed to move forward in the open lot space. Next, engineer Matt Smith remained in the meeting, this time representing a resident planning to build a garage on his property. This appearance was the second from this resident and engineer, as they were asked to return with a revised plan for the structure. The presented revised plan was reviewed by the commission and was accepted. Next, the board reviewed a request for an extension order of conditions from Certainteed Roofing. Mark Hovis, project manager, presented the reasoning behind the project delays, and the board understood. The project was granted an 18-month extension by the board. The last appointment discussed a complete renovation for one of the light department's buildings on Access Road. The new structure would include more parking spaces, a second-floor engineering hub, a loading dock, and more. After reviewing and considering all wetland boundaries with the applicants, the commission approved the project. Then the treasurer delivered his report and suggested a donation be made to the Sportsman Club Fishing Derby.
I think we've donated 100 in the past.
Yeah, that's my recall.
Well, I move that we donate 125.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The committee will meet again July 15th. The Permanent Building Construction Committee met Thursday night in Town Hall. The meeting opened with approvals of previous meeting minutes and invoices. Next, the committee began to review the window restoration project at the Highland Cemetery Chapel. A representative from the project informed the committee that the contractor will travel to New Jersey to hand-select the new stained glass. He also told the committee that the asbestos removal process is underway and is succeeding so far. Next, the committee set a deadline for masonry companies to apply for the lantern replacement project. That deadline is July 16th of this year. The committee wrapped up the meeting by reviewing invoices for town hall renovations to fix ongoing window leaks. Also on Thursday night, Forbes Hill Task Force met in the Police and Fire Community Room. They covered a number of topics, such as the public survey that they have provided to the town. There was open discussion about the override and potential zoning issues at the property. At the end of the meeting, the members discussed the property's restrictions and green space ideas. The next Forbes Hill Task Force meeting will be July 12th at 7 p.m. in the Police and Fire Community Room. To watch the full government meeting, tune into the NCM Government Channel or watch them on demand at norwoodcommunitymedia.org. Stay tuned after this break to find out what's happening around our schools.
Shopping local is a great way to support your community. It creates local jobs, it grows small businesses, and provides investment back into your town. Local businesses know their customers and their needs. They define your town and make it uniquely yours.
I bike local.
I refurbish furniture, local.
I Lewisburger local.
I buy flowers, local.
We shawarma local.
I gift local.
I bank local.
I bowl local.
I play local.
I clean local. I shop local. I sparkle local.
I frame local.
We run local.
On Saturday, November 29th, you're invited to shop local. Support your neighbors, your friends, and your town. Shop local.
Welcome back to Norwood News. Now we toss it over to Norwood School reporter Tim Rose to find out what else is happening at the schools.
Hi guys, let's take a look at events and activities happening around our Norwood School community. The Oldham School third graders had a walking tour of Norwood. They walked from the Oldham to the Morrill Memorial Library to visit the rock dedicated to Aaron Guild and to see the picture of Sarah Bond Morrill, for whom the library was created. Some of the children even got library cards. The children then proceeded to walk to the Day House for a tour by Kim and Steve. They saw a blue cabinet, which was the original lending library in Norwood. The children then walked to the town hall for a tour and climbed the tower to ring the carillon bells donated by Mr. Tilton. Mr. Leach was the guide at the town hall. And finally, the children got to rest and eat picnic lunches at the gazebo before walking the last stretch of the field trip back to the Oldham School. Everyone had a great day and the weather was perfect. On Wednesday, the entire Oldham School assembled to dedicate the planting of a cherry tree to Kathy Barnacle, who is retiring after 32 years of service to Norwood Public Schools, of which 15 of those years were at the Oldham School. The newly planted tree was bought by the PTO through the efforts of co-presidents Katie Neal Rizzo and Kat Hare and Vice President Jen Carey. We wish her all the best in retirement. At Norwood High School, the faculty softball game was a thriller at Gene Brown Field. Dan Reyes of the Foreign Language Department broke open a one-run game in the 6th with a towering home run over everything, and it has been rumored that that ball is still going. Caitlin Notobart used a variety of underhand, overhand, and everything in between pitches to shut down the bats and earn the win. The NHS Athletic Department held their 8th grade orientation and fall sports information night. If you were unable to attend, go to norwoodmustangs.com. At the Balch, the 3rd graders took a walking tour of Norwood and had lunch at Conrad's. The 4th grade held a state fair. Students researched individual states and learned some pretty interesting facts. Did you know North Dakota is the #1 producer of honey in the nation, and in Alaska, it's illegal to whisper in someone's ear while hunting for moose? Students also shared foods with visitors that represented their state. It was a fun and informative morning at the Balch State Fair. CMS Grade 6 literacy students and Mrs. Lockwood's and Mrs. McTavish's classes walked to the Balch Elementary School to read to 1st and 2nd grade students as part of their literacy initiative. This collaboration was set up with reading specialist Alyssa Kaplan. At the Cleveland, the 3rd grade went on a field trip to the Concord Museum and the Old North Bridge. The children learned about what it was like to live and work in colonial times. They became apprentices to a master tinsmith and created pierced tin plates. They examined the objects of everyday colonial life and were asked to guess what the objects were used for. They learned a colonial dance and had to bow or curtsy, do-si-do, sashay, peel, or follow a line around and go under a bridge. They explored the museum's colonial collection and period rooms. A few lucky boys and girls even got to model colonial clothing. They even got to see the famed 1775 lantern of Paul Revere. Then they traveled to the Old North Bridge and learned about the start of the American Revolution and the shot heard round the world. The students marched across the bridge, saw the burial place of 2 British soldiers, the Minuteman statue, and met Samuel Whitney, a Concord Minuteman. A great time was had by all. The Little Mustangs preschool went on their first field trip. The preschoolers and their teachers walked to Father Mac's playground for their first annual Popsicles in the Park Day. They also enjoyed some surprise visitors. Officers Murphy, Riley, Baguna, and Chief Brooks stopped by to say hello to the children. Officer Baguna got quite the workout as he helped each of the children across the monkey bars. A great day was had by all. And the Little Mustangs preschool staff would like to thank the Norwood Police Department for making this day extra special and one they will remember for a long time. At the Coakley Middle School, it was time for some chemical fun in Miss Bousquet's class. Students learned how to turn pennies into gold. CMS students traveled to the New England Aquarium and to Castle Island for an educational and fun field trip. Field day at CMS was very wet, especially around the area of the dunk tank. Principal Margot Frasick even got into the end-of-the-year spirit. The 8th graders went to Canopy Lake Park to celebrate the end of the year at Coakley Middle School. Let's take a look. Before we go, let's head to the Oldham School and visit Mrs. Barnacle's 3rd grade class. We learned that they watch this very program, Norwood School News, during their snack time. So we decided to travel over to Prospect Street to take a look and to put them right into this episode.
Hi guys, let's take a look at events and activities happening around our Norwood School community. On Thursday, June 7th, Norwood Community Media brought the mobile truck to Prescott School. Mike Maloof, Brian Woodrow, Eric Crowley, and Tess McGuire gave the students a tour of the truck.
Well, we started watching the school news when we were on the school news. We knew we would be on one week, so we wanted to see ourselves on there. And then we realized Tim Rose, who was an Oldham student, was doing it. So we watched that first time because we were on there, and then we got really interested in it, and we started watching it even if we're not on there. Each week we watch it. I think the students like to see themselves, so they plan ahead and think, what can we put on TV? Because we've seen other schools that put things on and thought, we do that too, we could put that on. And then we like to watch and see what other schools are doing and what's going on. They get to see siblings and friends, and it's very interesting.
Well, what I've learned is that what activities the other schools do. I liked when the Prescott did that Battle of the Books thing. That looked pretty cool. I think that my favorite one was probably the Chuck-a-Duck that the Cleveland did. That looked pretty cool.
I like that there's lots of stuff that you can learn that the other schools have. It's cool that I see all the people that I know, and it's very nice too. My sister Leah had her concert, and I saw her on the Norwood News.
Personally, I have learned that there are a lot of things going on in the town that I would not know about if I didn't watch Norwood News. The little clips from all of the schools are very helpful. We get to see what's going on. It gives ideas for activities for our school, and it keeps us in touch with everybody else in all of the other buildings.
That's it from Mrs. Barnacle's class. In the 3rd grade at the Oldham School.
Now let's toss it back to Tim Rose.
Thanks, guys. We're glad that you enjoy Norwood School News and that you have learned many things about our Norwood schools. Thanks again for watching. Well, that's it for Norwood School News. As always, thanks so much for your continued support of our school community. Now let's go to Mike Maloof with the latest sports news.
Thanks, Tim. Norwood Legion won 9-1 against Needham on Thursday night. The bats were alive for Norwood with home runs by Paul Manning and Cam Flahive. Matt Rice was on the mound for post 70 and pitched 6 strong innings. Michael James came in for relief in the 7th and shut down Needham to get the close. Norwood will have 2 games this weekend. Last Saturday, Norwood Youth Soccer held the Fernando Morales 3-on-3 Jamboree. This event is a league and scholarship fundraiser for Norwood Youth Soccer. It also honors the memory of Fernando Morales, a Norwood Youth Soccer player, referee, coach, and volunteer who passed away in 2015. There was plenty of soccer, raffles, fun, and food. In addition, recent Norwood High School graduates were presented with awards and scholarships for their contributions to Norwood Youth Soccer. Thanks to all the Norwood sponsors for making this event successful. That's all for sports. Now back to the desk.
Welcome back. If you have driven on Peabody Road in the past week, then you might have seen temporary traffic island that Norwood Engineering Department has installed. Islands like this one have become more and more popular around Norwood in the past few years. Town engineer Mark Ryan explains the reasoning for the islands.
Hello everyone, Mark Ryan here from the Public Works Department. We're out here on Peabody Road at Belmont Street looking at one of the engineering department's temporary traffic calming islands. Back in 2004, the Pedestrian Safety Committee was formed to try to provide a better environment for the pedestrians and to also slow traffic down. And around town you might see some of the results of our efforts of these traffic calming devices, or islands in this case. For example, there's one in front of the Norwood Civic Center on Manhattan Street, another on Washington Street in front of the Norwood Hospital, just to name a few. And the idea is to make it safer for pedestrians to cross, and it also slows traffic down. Here on Peabody Road, where we have this temporary island right behind me, there are reports of cars speeding into the back parking lot at Norwood High School, and this posed a threat to not only the pedestrians crossing there, but also the motorists coming on Belmont Street, because most of the time, a great majority of the time, these cars coming up Peabody Road and entering the high school parking lot would not only go fast, they wouldn't put their traffic signal on, so no one really knew which direction they're going. So engineering laid this out, Public Works installed it, and we've been monitoring it. It seems to be working just as planned. Cars, when they're coming in, especially the morning rush hour to the high school, the cars are slowing down as they enter. They're putting their blinker on, so it's making it a lot safer for everyone involved there. So we're going to keep an eye on it for another week or so, make some recommendations to the selectmen, and see if they want to go forward with the permanent island.
Thanks, Mark, for the update. Thursday night, the 8th graders at the Coakley Middle School celebrated academic and extracurricular successes at the promotional ceremony. Each year, the school invites the 8th graders, their families, and friends to honor all of the hard work that the kids completed during their 3 years at the middle school. Awards are distributed for achievements in academics, the arts, extracurriculars, and community-based work. The crowd welcomed keynote speaker Robert Noonan, salutatorian of the recently graduated NHS class of 2018. He shared a great message of perseverance with the students.
Sometimes a small leap of faith can change your life, whether it be finding a talent you never knew you had, making a lifelong friend, or even finding what interests you. All this encouragement is positive, but I know that deep down, all of you are maybe a little bit nervous about next year. I know that moving up to high school can seem a little scary and intimidating, but I'm here to tell you to trust yourself and your abilities, and trust what your teachers have taught you.
Come September, the NHS class of 2022 will officially enter the building, but not before their well-earned summer vacation, of course. That's the latest in Norwood news. To stay up to date with Norwood Community Media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.